Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Andrea Kimi Antonelli is sending a message to George Russell going into the new season, despite Toto Wolff's admission that Antonelli just needs to take it slow, get up to speed, make sure you don't put it in the wall again. Antonelli says his intention is to turn up to Melbourne, and if the car is capable, start winning races immediately. Is this the type of confidence that may propel Antonelli to be a future superstar of the sport? Is it the type of confidence that may propel him back into the wall? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, we begin here with Williams and Carlos Sainz. These are some pictures, starting here really, of the new kit. Few interesting things to note here. I think they put this out today and then deleted it and then realised they needed to do it again. The main story for Williams today was the securing of a brand new title sponsor in the sport. So here we go. These are the race suits. This is the first time we see Albon and Carlos Sainz together in their new suits. It looked kind of nice to me. They got the white, they got the Williams blue, and they do have a brand new title sponsor that appears twice on here, probably more as well, to be fair. Actually, yeah, I could already see it down part of the leg as well here. But yes, Atlassian, or however you're meant to pronounce it, it's now no longer Williams Racing, it's Atlassian Williams Racing, and they become another team on the grid with a title sponsor. I think the only team that doesn't have it now is McLaren. Even Ferrari, with all of their history, they are now Scuderia Ferrari HP. They simply cannot turn down the opportunity to get a massive bag. And to be fair, fair play to Williams making this happen, right? Because for a team like Williams, with the size they are, with the resources they have, look, it might not be great for the fans. Does any fan really like title sponsors? Not really. But to be fair, the teams that have brought them on, they get more financial resources as a result. A team like Williams can now, push the envelope up towards the cost cap. It also will be helpful in terms of capital deployment and investment into resources and facilities and potentially staff. Obviously, we know that the staff come out of the cost cap, but the top earners are excluded. So if you compare top earner more, maybe you can attract some better people. So yeah, Scott Mitchell-Marm, as he says from the race here, new Williams title sponsor, technology partner, and collaboration software partner. This is the biggest deal in the history of Williams by dollar value. I don't think we know the precise numbers, but yeah, fair play to James Vowles making this happen. I think it could be a good thing for Williams. Is it a great thing for the fans? Does anyone really care? I guess these are also fair questions, but yeah, you go up and down the grid and you find McLaren, for all the partners and the sponsors that they have, it is still McLaren Formula 1 team. Of course, Red Bull, it's Oracle or whatever, right? You then have Mercedes, it's been AMG, which is theirs, but Petronas for some time. Ferrari now have it. Aston Martin had Cognizant, now is it not Aramco? And then obviously you've got VCarb, which is riddled with them. And basically every team has some sort of title sponsor technically nowadays. Of course, are we going to call them Atlassian Williams Racing? No. The drivers will, James Vowles will call them Williams. So maybe it doesn't really matter, but it was a pretty big update on the day as well. Another pretty big update on the McLaren side was this. So one of their top aerodynamic guys, their technical, basically key technical figure, their aerodynamics technical director, they've got kind of an interesting setup now at McLaren from a technical point of view. It's effectively being headed up, I think, by Rob Marshall, former Red Bull guy. He's given, I think, the majority of the credit, but they split the roles in an interesting way, and their key technical figure on the aero side, Peter Prodromou, has signed a multi-year extension with the team, and this is a pretty big deal, because guys like, Prodromou are the real, unsung heroes of Formula 1 in many respects. The, very talented engineers that design the car and come up with and execute all of these fantastic ideas that has propelled McLaren to great success last season, but a face and a name and a figure that is not especially well known to the public eye. But behind the scenes at McLaren, and seemingly at other teams as well, they recognise he is a very important figure that contributed to the success of their team. And it seems like this is a pretty big deal because, he is seen as a key part of the team's turnaround over the last 24 months or so. I mean, he took the role in March 2023. And it wasn't that long after that point when things really started to turn around for McLaren, late 2023 and most certainly 2024. So with other teams, especially teams that win, struggling to keep hold of their top guys, it happened with Mercedes, it's now continuing to happen with Red Bull. they win the championship, they lose a number of top individuals for various reasons, but part of it is you win, other teams offer your top guys more money. It's difficult to maintain talent, and McLaren will suffer with that as well. But one of their key guys, they've locked him down for the longer term, and there's discussion that this is a pretty big boost for McLaren in the grand scheme of things as to whether they can maintain their current trajectory going forward. Quickly on Red Bull, I don't exactly know what they're cooking up tomorrow. I know that the race did a video discussing how there's a possibility there might be some surprises in store because all the teams' liveries are launching on the 18th of February, a week today, at the O2 in London. But it's plausible the teams could do some of their own reveal. They're not allowed to reveal the livery of the new car, but they could do some sort of promotional 2025 season thing. I don't know what Red Bull are cooking up. Maybe they're dropping some new merch. I don't know, because Max was also getting involved in this. Here he is in front of an AlphaTauri branded private jet. And, well, here he is in some AlphaTauri clothing. He looks perfectly fine, right? But it's just, I'm not used to seeing Max in anything that isn't a Red Bull jersey. But, yeah, so he's, obviously, AlphaTauri are still involved in Formula 1 in some capacity. The sister team is no longer called AlphaTauri. People were looking at this thinking, hang on a second, are they bringing the branding back? Is Max driving for AlphaTauri now? Like, no, he's driving for Red Bull. Obviously, the old team, Cash App, RB, they've still got ties to AlphaTauri and all that. And Max is an official global brand ambassador for the entity, which is obviously kind of interesting, but it's all part of the same Red Bull thing, so I don't imagine there's too much of a big deal in there. Just one quick thing on Ferrari. This was a pretty cool image, actually, that came out today of Leclerc and Hamilton in their suits and helmets. They, it's kind of got Daft Punk vibes, this to me. There was a bit of talk about the power units. There was discussion even from Russell about Bottas to do with this, basically, because obviously Bottas has been driving a Ferrari engine at the Sauber for the last couple of years. He's coming to Mercedes, and Russell was mentioning how it's possible that Bottas might have some insight into the Ferrari engine that might be able to help Mercedes. Now, the same could be true for Hamilton too, going to Ferrari, but fundamentally for him it's about figuring out, how the new power unit behaves. Now, as a non-Formula 1 driver, and as somebody who doesn't have experience switching between Ferrari and Mercedes power in the Formula 1 context, and not in any context, to be perfectly honest, but, I don't know what is exactly the situation here, but drivers such as Anthony Davidson, of course, pundit, Mercedes simulator man, says, and obviously a successful racing driver in his own right, and was in Formula 1 for a significant chunk of time, he says that the adjustment between Mercedes and Ferrari power is going to be difficult. Now, Hamilton is no normal driver, but Davidson does say, no matter how good you are, it is going to be difficult to learn a new power unit. So that is interesting, right? As I say, difficult for me to say and really analyse how difficult that transition may be, how different the engines may potentially feel between the Mercedes or the Ferrari. But I guess the point is, the engine is manufactured in a different way. It's to the same specifications, but the gearing is typically substantially different. The Ferrari has been known to be excellent out of slower corners, and then maybe weaker on other elements of the power delivery. Of course, the way that the ERS is employed in that as well, and the battery deployment, that's a question mark. We know that the Ferrari turbocharger is quite significantly different to what the Mercedes turbocharger does. We believe, anyway, that Ferrari tend to run a much smaller turbo on their cars, which has helped them at times and hindered them at other times. The way that turbo kicks in, I'm sure, will feel different in the relevant power units. So there is definitely a learning curve to be had there, but can Hamilton get up to speed quickly enough? I don't think he'll have too much issue with it, but when you've driven one style of power unit design for your entire career, always Mercedes engines, it is obviously going to be a big talking point, whatever happens going into the new year. And famously, the smaller turbo of Ferrari typically hurt them at circuits like Mexico at altitudes, where the airflow wasn't good enough. But of course, this year in Mexico, Carlos Sainz had a bit of a masterclass. So, maybe that's not going to be so true going forwards. The other big story, though, that we've got to get into is Russell, Antonelli, and some of the teammate dynamics we're expecting this season. This is Oscar Piastri with George Russell in the background, and Piastri, of course, he is preparing himself because this might be the year. Who knows what happens in 2026? In 2026, Mercedes might make the best power unit of all time again, Adrian Newey might cook up an absolute masterpiece with the Aston Martin, and McLaren might not be back to the top again for another 15 years. You genuinely just don't know in this sport, what's going to happen next. So, I'm sure that all the drivers at the top, the Hamiltons, the Leclercs, the Piastris, Norris, Verstappen, etc., Russell, Antonelli, maybe even Lawson, they will be thinking, this is a chance to win the title this year. And Piastri says, I've been in F1 for a couple of years now. I'm starting to better understand what parts of my body I need to train more, what things I need to work on. He's obviously hoping to get closer to, if not be able to beat Lando Norris this year. But at Mercedes, the theory would go that if they do have a great car, they may not. Of course, it's a bit of a speculation right now how good the Mercedes is going to be. They don't seem to be taking as much risk as their other three counterparts. But if the risks of the other three teams don't pay off, who knows? Mercedes might be in a great position to capitalize this year. It would be expected Russell is going to be the man leading the charge, and despite the fact that Antonelli has had roughly twice the testing time that Lewis Hamilton had before he came into the sport in 2007, Antonelli should be very well prepared to come into Formula One, but equally, Toto doesn't want to put too much pressure on him, and he doesn't want him to crash the car, because last year Mercedes' crash damage at the end of the year after the car became trickier to drive was an issue for them. So Toto says, we want to prepare Antonelli really for 2026. If you expect him to be on pole in Melbourne, win the race, and immediately in the race for the championship, the risk is high, because that is not going to happen. And fair enough, keep the expectations down. Yes, they believe he's a prodigy. Yes, they believe he's going to be maybe their real star driver of the future, but they want to ease him up into the sport, and that is fair enough. However, Antonelli, it seems, has other ideas, and the confidence this kid has is excellent as far as I'm concerned. Look, if you're a driver that's going to achieve anything in any motorsport, really any sport as an athlete, you've got to be confident in yourself, but obviously it can bite him, right? And, people did wonder after what happened in Monza, home crowd, driving Lewis Hamilton, or it was actually Russell's car, wasn't it? Hamilton was on track with him, going purple, bidding it in the wall after the parabolica. Not a great sign. Of course, Italian driver, Italian crowd, all that stuff. But equally, did it affect his confidence? It did not seem to. So the discussion in the article here was particularly interesting. They were discussing that crash. Of course, you guys remember Toto Wolff said that it was unbelievable, the speed that he had and everything. And it's like, well, maybe anyone can have the speed if they can't hold it into a corner. But you guys know that I'm optimistic that Antonelli is going to live up to at least some degree of the expectations here. But there is a feeling that Antonelli will say, what, I'm just going to ease in. I'm not going to, go too hard. I'm not going to try and, be battling with my teammate George maybe and the other rest of the grid immediately. But there was a recent interview that Antonelli did where he said the following: I will attack fully from the start. My mindset is to go out on the track and drive for victories. It's not easy, of course. I'm racing against the best of the best. It takes hard work. Therefore, of course, I will try and learn as much as possible from the beginning, but I'll attack and push immediately without fear and see what happens then. So, this is pretty fascinating to me, right? Because many drivers, and certainly the advice that he will be receiving, will not probably be this. Maybe from his father or something, but you know what I mean? His team will probably be telling him, look, Kimi, let's just take it slow. At least that's what his team are saying publicly. There was a feeling at Monza when he crashed that the team, maybe Antonelli just kind of went a bit rogue, but there was a feeling that they wanted Mercedes to kind of show that he's the real deal. And whether they had that conversation or not, Antonelli from lap 3 or 4 was pushing hard. He was purple, he was going top of the lap times, and there was a feeling that Mercedes wanted to make a bit of a statement and say, look, this guy's legit. We've made the right call replacing Hamilton with Antonelli. And, he's able to get up to the top of the practice times, be faster than Hamilton when Hamilton was taking it a bit easier in practice, this type of stuff anyway. And there was a bit of a feeling there that Mercedes and Toto might have said, all right, Camilo, let's see what you can do, put on a show type thing. But of course, publicly, he's going to say, oh no, well, we need to make sure we're being focused and taking our time and building up and all this type of thing. So there is a feeling that while publicly Mercedes may say one thing, maybe there is a bit of a feeling of Mercedes saying, all right, Anthony, you got this type thing. Because also, there is a feeling, it may not be founded, but if Max Verstappen was to leave Red Bull and he was to favour Mercedes because he thinks they're going to produce the best power unit for 2026, they have to make a call between Antonelli and Russell. And if Antonelli is of the mindset of just easing into the season, then, if Russell gets a substantial championship lead on Antonelli, It therefore makes any potential decision very challenging indeed. So what do you guys think about this? Antonelli says he will attack from the start, he will drive for victories, he will attack and push immediately without fear, which is exactly what I want to hear as a Formula 1 fan. Like a rookie with loaded talent turning up onto the grid and immediately going full attack. I mean, you know, could we have a Hamilton 2007 situation on our hands? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. But George does seem to be aware that Kimi poses a threat to some degree. And as he says, he is such a fantastic driver. He does not have the experience yet, but I'm sure that he will be up to speed very quickly indeed. So that's the thing. I mean, yeah, sure, he doesn't have the experience, he will be making mistakes, but does he have the speed and does he have the ambition? I think that's the key point really, right? Like if he's of the mindset of taking it easy, building it up, because that is the mindset, to be fair, that most rookies have. But the exceptional rookies, they tend to have the mindset of, well, I'm the fastest man on this track, like why would I not try and win the Grand Prix? And that's the type of mindset which can be dangerous, but it can also be very exciting and potentially very effective indeed. So I think this statement today makes me even more interested to see what's going to happen this upcoming season. I actually hope on this discussion that Mercedes have built a good car, because if their car is fourth best again, like substantially fourth best and they're in no man's land, then okay, Antonelli will cause a bit of upset maybe, but it's not going to be massive drama potentially. If the Mercedes is in the mix, man, we have a real potential season on our hands, I think. But enter into your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing. It's a week today until the F175 live at the O2, and they've confirmed where you can watch the spectacles. I've actually not clicked on this yet. I guess I'll accept the cookies I really want to, but you know, I'm not going to waste your guys' time going through all the cookie settings. This is what we find. It's going to be on YouTube, okay. So more than 15,000 fans in the arena. They say fans, like, I don't know how many fans actually managed to get tickets to this. A lot of it is just, you know, corporate sponsors and stuff and the teams and everything in the front rows. And fair enough, I get why they're doing this. But it will also be streamed for free on F1 social channels, including YouTube. Red carpet from the drivers, team principals and celebs, entertainment from world-class acts, all-important livery reveal that will showcase the cars. And I think there's a general feeling that they probably will look to do this again. Every year, usually around about this time, we've got Red Bull coming out and saying, oh, here's our new car, and it's just last year's car with a new livery on, and the teams spend hours talking about it and thanking their sponsors and all this, and F1 has decided, for, you know, for good or for bad, that we're just going to not bother with that anymore, and we're going to do one livery launch event, make it a big deal every season. That, I presume, is what they're going to try and do, is probably replicate this idea every year. I know they're doing it especially for the 75th anniversary, but still, I think it's probably their plan to have an annual launch event for the season. It's probably the type of thing that F1 would want to do nowadays. Whether that's a good thing, it's a question. And then, of course, after it's over, then the teams can feel free to do what they want, do their own reveals, do their own little event, as Ferrari are going to do at Fiorano, and then, of course, do the shakedowns in Bahrain, which we are expecting in just a couple of weeks' time. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Thought this is kind of cool from Ferrari as well, pointing out a couple of bits of Italian that you may want to know. But hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.